So one of the most sort of interesting things for me with what you do is athlete management. For people listening, Tarek and your company manage Danny Macaskill, Fabio. I never know how to say his last name.
Wibmer.
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 Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
no W, right? So Wibmer, yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy G is a whole host of people that you look after. So who was the
Like,
first athlete that you brought on board? And I'd like to know, you sort of talked about it a little bit first, but like, why did you start this leg of the business? Were you seeing athletes not getting managed properly, or this is, again, for
yeah,
me,
yeah,
super
yeah.
interesting.
Well, the first athlete was Trond Hansen, and Trond I saw. I'm pretty sure it was in 2005 in Whistler, riding Whistler Crankworks already. Because I was judging at Crankworks from 2004 till 2007,
Right.
and, uh, and yeah, I saw Trond and then also Niels Winfeld. They were both Norwegian.
Okay.
Trond, I mean, yeah, they were really great riders, and I thought, wow, these great riders, but they have no sponsors. And I was like, we should do something. We should work together. When you're here in the top 10 of the world, like you should be sponsored and not just getting some product.
Mm.
And and yeah, and like the original, like I told you, the motivation was for me to get athletes to a different level because, well, get them on the one hand, get them on a different level, and develop the sport and let's say the income also for those athletes because they're entertaining millions of people, or some just hundreds of thousands, but still. And then they might get, I don't know, a bike or back in the days, yeah, struggling in life just for something they're passionate about and entertaining so many people
Yeah.
and filling magazine pages and nowadays more full of the internet is full of them. And when I managed myself, I I was doing everything from being in touch with the sponsors, finding new sponsors, being in touch with media, being in touch with photographers, being in touch with your with film production, and it was too much. It was too much stress, and I had no time to write and practice and actually work on what I was doing. And this part, I would say, put me into the wheelchair almost because I was doing too much organizational stuff
Right.
and not looking after my performance so much. And I always say to our athletes, like, they should just ride, and we have to do as much as we can for them. Of course, they still have to do interviews here and there, or a podcast or whatever it is. But we want everything set up. They just get a mail, this and that, or we book their flights, or we do their contracts. We do everything, and yeah, or help them even with their health, like in Emil's case.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot, and yeah, I think that's the way to go because if you're a pro athlete, like a proper athlete that is competing or doing things that you have to be on a really good level of riding, uh, you have to just ride
Mm.
and then understand what it takes, of course, to be representing your partners in the right way and so on. But that's something that we help them with and that we tell them how to do it. And
Right.
uh, yeah, most of them are have it naturally also in them, but still, yeah, we let's say enhance it all and push them. And we work with Danny for 11 years now,
Wow.
uh,
Right.
almost 11. 11 years is when in April 11 years ago his video Inspired Bicycles came out, and then a few months later we worked with him,
How
and
did
he
you guys connect?
in different ways. The first time I remember, I got the on Facebook. I got a message from my friend York, that was a photographer for biking at that time, and he's still shooting, but not so much bike. But he sent a message to Hans Ray, Ryan Leach, and myself of this video. And I'm like, wow, looks amazing. And not that I was against trials, but we didn't have really trials riders, and I also like the regular trial. I was not too keen on to watch or to work with, even though when I was riding, trials was already existing, and there were also trial shows, and we had a lot of requests to have either shows or some activation with athletes, but around small space. And with a mountain biker that does dirt jumps, he needs always a ramp and an in run and so on. So you need always a bigger space. And that's why I thought, oh, trials guy could be really good. But Danny is not a regular trials guy. He rides bikes with a new interpretation that has, the introduction on, let's say, mountain bikes as well as trials bikes for the fakey nose wheelie that actually comes from Dennis McCoy. I don't know if you know Dennis.
Yeah.
DMC is funny because I saw him or met him actually first time properly face to face at X Games in Munich when we organized X Games back then, and yeah, we talked about Danny. He's like, yeah, Danny got the G turn. It's actually my trick, and no, every time like something is on Instagram with a G turn or somebody's doing fakey nose wheelies, I'm tagging DMC. Yeah, and then actually a guy. Somebody reached out to me. Sorry, I don't remember right now. But a friend reached out on Skype. He's like, hey, there's a guy in Scotland. I think he's really talented. He could need your help. I'm like, what do you mean? And then it's like this guy. And then I think he made the connection, and he gave me the phone number. And then I contacted Danny and talked to him. They had a website set up at the beginning, but yeah, there were just so many requests coming in, and we were one of the requests. But we were talking, and we invited Danny to Munich. I wanted to meet him as a person, because for me, it's not about just working with good riders. I want personalities and people that are real and that are more humble, that are well-grounded, that aren't thinking because they hit the internet now they are the best guys in the world or something. Just stay on your feet, and of course you jump a lot and you're often high in the air maybe, but don't need to be up high in the sky.
Yeah, the ego doesn't need to be at the same height, right?
Your nose needs to stay down, or nose dive. But anyways, no, and we invited him because there was a show for, actually when we did Big in Bavaria, we also we proposed a show with Danny for the Munich trade show, and that's how we got him here, and that's how we met him. And then eventually, I think a few weeks after the show that we did with him here, I was in Whistler actually at Crankworks in 2009, and he's like, hey, okay, let's do it. I'm gonna go for you, like with you. And at that time, we worked with Andreo, we worked with Chond, we worked with a great selection of athletes already. Martin Söderström. So he kind of knew who he's starting the relationship with, and and then in the beginning I had to also really help him make those decisions, because he knew if he's working with us, like that we want to get him on Red Bull. Red Bull already also contacted him, but we talked to them, and then but also Monster contacted him as well, and it was like, I mean my story with Red Bull is quite longer, and I still get paid as an athlete like I was before having the accident, and they've been amazing, and they are amazing in general, how they treat athletes and what they do as extras for them. It's not just the logo on the helmet and a bunch of cash. It's way more than that.
That's been a cool theme through this podcast, actually. I've had various Red Bull athletes on, from Danny. I guess Danny's been on here. a few years ago, and Emil most recently talking about, yeah, you know, it's a helmet and it's cool and it's amazing to be a Red Bull athlete, but when shit hits the fan and they need help, usually Red Bull will step up and help them. I know when Danny did the podcast, he was in rehab in Manchester, and then Emil, you know, we spoke quite a lot about him coming to Germany for his rehab and sort of to visit doctors and whatnot. So, and I think as well, Martin's been on here, and we spoke about it with Martin too, about injuries and how much Red Bull have helped him with rehab. So, yeah, it is interesting that they do a lot more than what might see from the outside looking in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you always? I mean, most of your athletes, some of your athletes are Red Bull athletes. So is that sort of a thing where if you join you join in Red Bull, or is it not really like that?
Nah, you can't say it like that, because I mean, obviously we hope that they can be with them, but we don't have a guarantee, and but we don't make it like it shouldn't be depending on that. And of course there's only that many athletes that can also be supported by the brand, because maybe there's already athletes in the country, maybe they don't fit what they're looking for at the moment, and so on. So we have a few without Red Bull helmets, so it's like 9 athletes at the moment. It's, I don't know, I can give you the rundown who it is. You guys have got some awesome people on your books. So we got so Danny and Fabio. Funny story also is how we met Fabio. I don't know if you know the story.
Dude, I'd love to hear the story. How did Fabio get involved with you in Resolutions?
Well, we did with Danny in 2012, or I think it was 2012. We did an event here in Munich, was called the Wings Academy. It was basically a little bit similar maybe to the one, I don't know if you know that, he did something in Manchester, which was Manchester City Lights or something like that. It was basically a workshop for up-and-coming trials riders. They were all teenagers, and we organized the whole event for Red Bull, and we collected applications, and then like there were about close to 100 applications, and then just took, I think 12 or 14 of those. We took the best ones. They were able to ride a day and spend an evening with Danny and ride a full day, and it was 2 dinners, and one of them was Fabio, and Fabio was 16 at that time, and Fabio was kitted out already with a POC helmet, with a 510 shoes, with inspired bike, and so on. So similar than Danny's setup at that time, and and he was actually the one that was coming closest to the bunny hop height that Danny was jumping. I mean, I think at the time he jumped maybe around 90 to 95 centimeters. But Fabio, but Danny already said, hey, this guy is really, really talented. And actually guys from my team also saw him. And I only saw him once really briefly, and he was there with his parents. And anyways, there was an eye on him, let's say. And especially Danny had a bit more eye on him, because Fabio was already also doing here and there videos, and then he did backflips already, and on the trials bike though. And then he was riding also downhill, and then he started with drop and roll. And when he started with drop and roll, he said, okay, I have my guys that I from my old friends from the clan, like Duncan and Ali, that joined him. And then he wanted one international guy, and that was Fabio. And then Fabio was 18, and a year later, I spoke with Danny. Actually, he's like, "Hey, are you cool? Like, we want to sign Fabio for Resolution." He's like, "Yeah, totally. Like, it makes totally sense." And because we have so many requests, and I wanted to, talk with Danny about it, because he does similar stuff, and I don't want him to feel weird or anything. But it was, totally cool, and then it was good, like, to start, and to help him. And we did, when he started with us, he just started his Instagram channel. Right. Like, he had a few thousand followers. And also his YouTube channel was very very small at that time, maybe 15 to 20,000, but the way uh, yeah, he created content was very appealing to teenagers and fans, and yeah, his YouTube channel just grew and grew, and people were. It's funny because I heard in the past people were like thinking, "Oh yeah, but he must just buy fans, and he's fans for Instagram or buying fans for YouTube or things like that." He never did any advertising. Like the only time I do remember when there was advertising was on his Facebook for something small. It was the worst thing that we probably that you could do at that time, because in the beginning, people, when there was somebody doing advertising on Facebook, they would just try to get many fans, but they would be from all different countries, and it would be, but this is like talking about 5-6 years ago. And yeah, we created, the Fabulous Escape was something where we created the title for the video.
Right.
We helped him very much with the content. In the end, more like to say, this is good, you can keep this, no, you have to change this. There were, we try and help him always with his final edits, that it's that we believe also that it will be totally fine for his image, as well as for partners, media, etc., etc. And when you have that big following, then you have to be very careful how you show yourself and what messages you give out, because you are, you're a star, and
it's full on like influencer status, isn't it? It's full influencer status. So